Well, join me as I read from James chapter 4, 1 through 4, as it says, "What causes wars? And what causes fighting among you? Is it not your passions at war with your members? You desire and do not have, so you kill. And you covet and cannot obtain, so you fight and wage war. You do not have because you do not ask. You ask and do not receive because you ask wrongly to spend it on your own passions. Unfaithful creatures, do you not know that friendship with the world is enmity with God? Therefore, whoever wishes to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God." There's a lot to unpack, and I'd like for us to take a look at this. And going through this has been a wonderful blessing. I'm so glad you've joined me so many times, and I've really enjoyed it. And this is it's so deep, the things that James is trying to reveal to us, but yet also so practical. That's really his motive. He wants these things to be very practical so that we are able to do them. It's meant to be very practical. It's not just talking philosophically. It's saying, here's the ingredients for you to make brownies. And this is how you do it. Here's how you stir, and here's the ingredients that you use, and here's the ingredients that you don't include. That's what he's trying to do. Now, for us to be able to understand verse 4, we need to understand some terminology. Let me reread it once again. Unfaithful creatures. Now, I don't know why, but I take that one personal. I'm like, ouch, James, that hurts. It's like he stepped on my toes. Like, ouch. It's like, okay, maybe I deserved it, but okay, ouch. I see him just kind of going, okay, James, I got to get your attention. All right. It continues. Do you not know that friendship with the world is enmity with God? So let's kind of break that down. And for us to understand, let's throw out some terms, such as the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven is the location. Whenever we pass away, we go through purgatory and we go to heaven. The kingdom of heaven, that's an actual geographical location. It's in a different dimension. We're not able to see it. We're not able to touch it and taste it here on earth, but someday we will. Someday we will be able to see it and walk those roads, join the saints that have gone before us. We're going to go to that location. Now, let's contrast that to another term. The kingdom of heaven is the location to the kingdom of God. Most people think, oh, they're the same thing. There's a little bit of, variance. No, it's actually something different. The kingdom of God is the teachings that come from heaven. So, for instance, love your neighbor, which is that the kingdom of God, the location, or the teachings that proceed from heaven? Exactly. The teachings that proceed from heaven, that is referred to the kingdom of God. If you'll remember, many times when Jesus would say things like, look, the kingdom of God is at hand. Now, what he was not saying was, do you see heaven? He wasn't saying that. He wasn't saying, go ahead, look, you see heaven? It just came, oh, you missed it. You shouldn't have blinked. No, what he's saying is that the kingdom of heaven, the location, that this is where the principles of love, compassion, mercy, forgiveness, it flows from the throne of God. God the Father, it proceeds from the Father, flows through him from heaven, his position, into and through the teachings. The teachings is the kingdom of God. So when Jesus fed the 5,000, he said, look, do you see what you're seeing? This is the kingdom of God. He had healed somebody and goes, the kingdom of God is here at hand. He had set somebody free. He goes, look, here, the kingdom of God is at hand. What he's saying is, I want you to recognize the principles. See love? That's from my kingdom. That's from the Father. See the generosity? That's the teaching. That's the manifestation. That's the embodiment. That's the teaching expressed through relationships. See, whenever I cast out demons, the kingdom of God is at hand. He's wanting us to differentiate the location to the expression, the teachings. Now that we know the difference between kingdom of heaven and the kingdom of God, now let's take a look at the other kingdom. There are two kingdoms, but in this analogy, the kingdom of God and the kingdom of hell, these are not equal. God is God. He is the creator of all things, including Satan. Satan did not create himself. They are not equal gods. They are not equal power. They are not two gods opposing each other. No, God is God. Satan is a created being. But I don't know any other way of saying the kingdom of God, and the kingdom of hell. Okay, the kingdom of hell is the location. The kingdom of hell is the geographic location whenever a person that does not enter into a relationship, a covenant relationship with Jesus Christ, a person who denies God, who does not want to have a loving relationship with Jesus, when they pass away, that's where they go. They go to an eternal damnation that is called hell, the kingdom of hell, that location. And there it is separate. It is separate, and they are separated from God in heaven. But the location of hell is different than the teachings of hell. Just like the kingdom of heaven is the location, and the teachings is the kingdom of God. Well, the kingdom of hell is the location. But what does the Bible say? How does the Bible communicate the teachings of hell? The way it communicates it is it calls it the world. The world is the teachings that come straight from the pit of hell. It originates there, it starts there, and it is carried out through the demons and the fiery darts of suggestions, looking for somebody to be able to believe, adhere to the teachings, and then carry out and manifest those teachings. That is called the world. Now, when we understand that, let's reread verse 4, where it says, unfaithful creatures. Do you not know that friendship with the world? In other words, those that you have made an alliance with, you are friends. You are more than acquaintance. You're playing with one another with what? The world. You are a part of the world. You're on the earth, but you are adhering to the teachings of hell. Now, if somebody listens to the teachings of hell, what can we predict? Exactly. We can predict what they're listening to. Here's how I like to communicate it. Kingdom of God, kingdom of heaven, or kingdom of God, kingdom of hell. And so you've got the kingdom of God, kingdom of hell, both are speaking. The kingdom that we listen to is the kingdom we give voice to, and it is the kingdom that we build at the expense of the other kingdom. So the real question is, which kingdom are we building? Which kingdom are you building? Which kingdom are you listening to? Which kingdom are you adhering to? Which kingdom has taught you? Which kingdom has taught you how to think, how to build relationships, how to look at the society, how to look at the world, how to look at other people? Which kingdom has taught you? Which kingdom have you listened to? This is what James is saying in verse 4. Now notice, unfaithful creatures, do you not know that friendship with the world, that word world, in this context is not referring to the earth, the grass and the trees. There are times in the Bible when it's referring to that. Paul mentions sometimes about the world referring to plants and animals and the earth and stuff. But this is referring to the teachings that come from hell. Now let's take a look at this next word, the word enmity. I've actually been teaching about this word close to 35 years. In the 35 years that I've been teaching this and asking people, do you know what enmity is? In 35 years, only 2 people have ever answered the question correctly. In other words, nobody knows what enmity is, but yet the Bible expresses it first in Genesis. Now we see it here. It's mentioned a couple of other times in the Bible, but it's very important. Here's my definition of enmity. It is the strongest form of hatred. It is this hostile hatred with the intent to destroy. It is this sense that it literally causes motion in a person to move forward, to literally destroy their enemy. That's what enmity is. Enmity is technically not an emotion. It's technically not a feeling. Anger is an emotion. Rage is a feeling. Enmity is neither. Enmity actually comes from one's soul, from one's spirit. Well, what are other things that come from a person's soul? Forgiveness. Forgiveness is not an emotion. Forgiveness is not a feeling, but it is a decision that can be made in a person's will, in their soul. Faith, same thing. It comes from a person's soul. But so is bitterness. Bitterness is a decision made in a person's soul. Enmity is directed towards the enemy. But if we don't know who the enemy is, like we see here, this person has made God their sworn enemy. And yet, if they are in alliance with the world, now all of a sudden they have sinned from the core of their being. They have made a decision to use enmity, this hostile hatred towards God. They are using this hostile hatred towards God from their soul. James is actually going to speak more about that at a later time, but let's reread it. Now that we understand some of these things, unfaithful creatures, now you see why I go, yep, James, that's me. Yep, you're talking to me. Why? Because I know that I'm a sinner. I know that. I know that I need Jesus Christ to have died on the cross for my sins. I know that. I know how unfaithful I am. I also know how much I love Jesus, how much I want to turn from those sins, how hard I've worked over the years to overcome certain sins. There's a lot of sins I've walked away from, yet there's still plenty that I'm walking through, learning how to lay down without guilt or shame or condemnation, but just adhering to the process of sanctification. Notice, therefore, whoever wishes to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God. Wow. James just got real, didn't he? I mean, he just really called it like it is. Not because he's trying to put us down, but because he's trying to raise us up. He's trying to get in our, and not in our face, but in our heart to say, I see more for you. I see greater things for you. Let's take a look at verse 11. Do not speak evil against one another, brethren. By the way, can I just share something with you? I want to share a principle of deliverance. Now, I'm sorry, I don't have enough time to kind of go into and unpack what deliverance is, but it really is just kind of this hand to hand, it's this fight that we go through to fight our sworn enemy, the devil. There's no other way than to call it that. It's not the movie with Burt Reynolds and a guy playing a banjo next to the river. That's the movie, but the ministry of deliverance is real. The ministry of deliverance is really a gift that God has given to his bride. The gift of the ministry of deliverance is actually a gift that asks a different set of questions than the medical community or the counseling community. I'm sorry I don't have more time to go into it, but you know what? If you do desire to find out more, just go online, check out the link wherever you may see it down below or something, and try to answer maybe those questions that you have. But one of the things that I've done whenever I've raised up deliverance teams over the years is I've taken them to this verse. Do not speak evil against one another. Because this is one of the easiest, quickest ways to open up a door to the demonic. For demons to torture and torment us is whenever we speak evil against another person, whenever we speak those judgments. I'll continue. He that speaks evil against a brother or judges his brother speaks evil against the law and judges the law. Now, let's ask ourselves a question. Did we write the law? No. Moses received the law, but Moses didn't write the law. He received the law. Same thing for you and I. We did not write the law. We received the law from the one that we're in a relationship with, God the Father. All right, so we can't judge something that we didn't make. We didn't create it, so we can't judge it. That's what he's saying. But if you judge the law, you are not a doer of the law, but a judge. In other words, James is saying you are out of order. You're operating in a dysfunction. This is dysfunctional if that's what you're trying to do. Verse 12. There is one lawgiver and a judge, he who is able to save and to destroy. But who are you that you judge your neighbor? Remember the story I started off with about the young boy? What did he do? He started all these rumors about the older person, got that person in trouble, went to court. Well, I just shared that story to just kind of, yeah, it's fictitious and it's funny, but There may be a lot of truth to these things because we are not supposed to judge others. And let me point out one very important area where you are not supposed to judge, and that has to do with yourself. You're not supposed to judge yourself. But judging yourself is different than saying, yep, I sinned. I did that. That was my sin. No, that's taking responsibility. That's confession. That's reconciliation. But whenever we judge ourselves, man, we put ourselves down. We call ourselves names. We don't see the gift that God has placed inside of us. That is a form of judgment. And why do I bring that up? Because sometimes a lot of people that I speak to, they're not judging others. They're not that type of person. Sometimes, yes. But for the most part, I don't think that there are very many people out there that are judging other people like what we may picture. But I think almost everybody struggles with judging themselves and putting themselves down. One way we can tell whether or not that's us is if we would be embarrassed if somebody else could hear what we're saying about ourselves. That's one way to see an indication that we are judging ourselves. Well, we're not supposed to do that either. Well, I just can't say it any other way, but whenever we judge others, we are actually opening ourselves up to demons. We're not designed by God to do that. The law, God, the Father judges. Even Jesus said he didn't come to judge. So judging is left by the Father and not by you and I. James is being a friend to us by teaching us that. Now, let's take a look at James chapter 4, verse 7. Submit yourself, therefore, to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Now, many times whenever I'm teaching at conferences or groups of people, I'll ask them, I say, help me with this verse. Resist the devil, and everybody says, he will flee. And I'll say, fantastic, great job. What's the rest of the verse? Crickets. You can't hear anybody. Nobody knows the rest of the verse. But the other part of the verse is the most important part. Submit yourself to God. Submit to God is the key. You really want to resist the devil. You want to resist the temptations, the fiery darts of suggestions. How do we do it? Submit to God. Submit our thoughts, our words, our actions, our attitudes, our dreams, our aspirations, even submit our past to God. Submit. Reminds me of a story. I had an older gentleman that came to me, and I was taking him through deliverance, and I was just simply helping him to recognize the enemy, where the enemy has opened a door in his life, and I was systematically helping him to close those doors. And through this process, week after week after week, one of those weeks I asked him, I said, by the way, would you say that you have completely submitted your life to the Lord? And this was his answer. He said, when it's convenient. Oh my goodness. Honestly, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I'm like, whoa. And he said it laughing, and I chuckled out of nervousness more than likely. And then I came back and I said, so was it convenient for Jesus to die on the cross for you? He said, no. See, submitting usually is not easy or convenient. Submit yourself, therefore, to God. Once you've submitted completely, it makes it easier to resist the devil. Well, you know me, I like to look at these words. And so what does submit mean? All of who you are. It means that. It means all of who you are. What does it mean to resist, stand against the lies of the enemy? See, when we submit, the word means to take place, to place yourself underneath God. To place all of you underneath God and his desires. That's what it means. Submit. Think of like if you and I were wrestling, and we've got the pads and we've got the helmet on, and it's like, okay, go. And now all of a sudden it's like, okay, I know what you're thinking. You're like, wait, a helmet? Yeah, I said helmet, but I'm like, I don't know if you wrestle with helmets. I haven't been to a wrestling match. I got caught up in the helmet part. All right. Okay. If you and I were wrestling, what would happen? You would submit me on the mat, you'd pin me down, and I'm underneath your strength and your ability. That's what that word means. Have you allowed yourself to be underneath the complete submission of Jesus Christ? Submit yourself, therefore, to who? God. Now, what about resist? In Greek, that word resist means this: to establish one's position publicly, to withstand, resist, or to oppose, to set publicly against. Now, whenever it says for us to resist the devil, I wonder how many of us resist the devil internally only, rather than having that accountability partner or opening up and sharing or making it public those areas that we are trying to resist the devil. That resist is a public positioning that is opposing the lies of the enemy. Well, once we start asking that question, then the other questions are, do we know how? How do we go about doing that? And maybe these are areas that we need to work on. Perhaps these are areas that we need to work on and cultivate to create a safe place for the sinners to be able to resist the devil publicly without guilt and shame and judgment and condemnation. I think perhaps that is what James is calling us to. I think he's calling us to do these things. Well, thank you for joining me. I hope this has blessed you. I can't wait to share with you James chapter 5. It's going to bring everything together, and I think it's going to surprise you. So I can't wait till next time. Bless you, and I'll see you then.